Hi there and welcome to the channel. I'm Slate and today I'm going to be going over the basics of Guild Boss 1. To help you with your progression, we are going to be going over everything you need to know to help you get from easy all the way up to Nightmare 3, and then I'm going to do a special video for Nightmare 4 on how you can reach that 50k blood top chest. Anyway, without further ado, let's get started on all of the basics you need to know for Guild Boss 1. The main thing is about making sure that you bring in the right components. So what you are going to need is the following. Number one, you are going to need DPS, because if you can't hit the boss and you can't get the boss down, you are not going to score any points. Number two, you need to survive. Now, one of the things as you move up is you might need to bring in a couple of different healers to help you actually get through. So actually let's bring in a second healer for this. And Dolores is not a healer. I'm just telling you here now, she is fantastic. You will hear about her a lot, but she's not what I would consider a healer. So you might have to end up bringing in Medan and Vortex, who are not necessarily good guild boss, but they will help you survive. And then you also need something that is going to debuff. And this is when, honestly, truly, Mari is absolutely amazing for guild boss progression. I genuinely think she's so underrated for how long you can use her and how much she will improve your teams. And this is simply because on her basic, she will put out a vulnerability of physical and magic damage on the boss that lasts for 3 seconds. And if you just make sure that she survives well and goes as fast as possible, you can keep that debuff up on the boss for as long as you want. Now, there are a couple of other heroes that do this. For example, Aeon is really good at this. Then obviously when you move into your infernal teams, Twin Fiend A1, Pyros, they also bring those. There are a few other heroes that bring in this type of debuff, but the best one that you can get to just sort of super hard carry you through is going to be your girl, Mari. So I definitely say she is an absolute must, and different things like that. Now, if we are talking about healers, Dolores is fantastic. I would say you really need to start using her Nightmare 2, Nightmare 3, but because you are bringing her in for her inspiration rather than her healing abilities, she needs a lot of attack, and until you start getting mythic gear, I really wouldn't even advise trying to bring her in if you're early game, because you just won't get the stats on her. She'll die, and it's just a slot where you could bring in a different healer to survive. Now, Hollow is absolutely god tier for guild boss. She's in all the top Nightmare 4 teams. She is arguably the best guild boss healer. So if you get her early, she's definitely worth bringing in as soon as you get her, and different things like that. But you could use a couple of different healers depending on what you need. It doesn't really matter. I just picked two very common ones, which is Vortex and Medan. Then when it comes to DPS, like I said, there are so many different options. You do get Wrath. A Nightmare team is going to be very good. If we actually look at the top teams in the world, you will see is that the teams primarily consist of 2 out of 3 main factions, those being Nightmare, Piercer, and Infernal. I have seen a couple of cool, interesting teams reaching 50k 1000 blood with Valderon, as in Chaotic, Arbiter, and also Watchguard with the release of Ingrid. But predominantly, if you look at these, it is going to be Piercer Infernal, Piercer Nightmare, Nightmare Infernal. They're the kind of things, and that's because they have such good heroes for guild boss. But anyway, until you start pushing into it, you are going to have to just use whatever DPS you actually have. I would say it's sort of when you start hitting around Nightmare 2 that you will want to start to try and push into factions and getting faction bonuses, because they really do make a difference. Now, in terms of other things that can boost your damage, Autumn is actually a really good shout. And you can see here in this team, they have brought her in, and that is because she provides crit rate and crit damage to your heroes. So if you don't have those stats early on and you can keep her surviving, she might be someone that you want to bring into the team. Especially late game, you could put her in something like a morale set, but for early game she might just be the difference to help you where you would necessarily put in your Dolores. Anyway, as I was saying, let's get into the main placements that you are going to need for this fight. Right, so if we're looking at initial placements, this is what I would recommend you doing. Making sure if you are using a healer that they cover all your bases. Now this is predominantly grounds. I'm going to put Medan there. This is going to be your main spot for a vortex or a healer regardless of what level you are, so definitely recommend going there. This is a nice spot for Mari because she can still reach the boss, and then you're basically going to be putting down your DPS and hoping for the best. Now, what you'll have noticed is obviously you're not using those two heroes, so you might decide that you want to like cycle things through. But the other thing to make a note of is different things. Now, the boss will basically do 2 attacks and then come up with a shield. And what you need to do is make sure that you yeet the shield, otherwise he will yeet you. Like that's it. That's like that is the principle, and he'll do it 3 times, and the whole fight lasts about 5 minutes. So what I recommend doing is holding your ultimates till this bar comes up, ulting with them, and then it does a huge amount of damage and you're absolutely fine. Now, one of the other things you might want to do is make sure that if something like one of the meteor impacts comes down and you're struggling a bit, then that is when you are going to want to ult with like your healers for some protection. And yeah, I mean, basically you are going to have to experiment with using your ultimates, try and get them going as much as possible. But the one person you are not going to be ulting with is Mari. She does not get ulted. Why? Because she only does this debuff on her basic attack. So yeah, that is basically where I would put the heroes. And as you can see, we're doing it absolutely fine. Then we're gonna do our, have a few. This is like four attacks, and then just gonna ult with all our heroes, because again, once you take down the shield, the boss goes into this like vulnerability stage, and then you get more damage, basically. So yeah, that is pretty much the fundamentals of like in the fight. The only thing I will say is this: if you are not going to survive, I'm going to show you on like a harder level of something that you can do. If you are struggling to like get through or break a shield. So now we are going to go over the Unkillable strat, which is something that can help you get just a little bit more damage if you are able to take out the first 2 shields, but you are struggling to take out the third. Now, there are 2 heroes that you're going to need to sort of like successfully employ this. The first is going to be Volker A1, which you get at Tide 105, and that is because she then reduces your allies' redeployment time by 25%. And then the second is going to be some kind of unkillable hero, Baron, Decimus, Regulus, some kind of tank basically, or fighter that has a passive by which when they die they stay alive a bit longer. But yeah, I love Baron for this. He's very easy to get compared to like some of the others and lasts longer than Decimus. So yeah, anyway, we're going to get into the fight so I can show you how it works. So first up, we're just going to place our heroes absolutely as normal. We don't need Volker or Baron yet, so this is how we're going to go. And we're just going to let it run. And yeah, like I said, make sure you have enough healing to sustain, particularly those meteorite impacts. They can be quite gnarly, but Vortex's ult is fantastic, gives you all a shield. That's great. And then yeah, make sure you don't ult with Mari if you are using her, and then save your ults for when the shield comes up, basically. So can get all that damage down. Go yeet yeet yeet, all those lovely debuffs and vulnerabilities. Score is going up nicely. And yeah, and then we're gonna basically, the second shield comes in at 240 and the third shield comes in at 120. So we're gonna start to pick up our heroes at around 130, just before that shield comes through. And I'll show you what we mean when we get there. But we're gonna get ready to take down that second shield after this meteorite impact. So we're gonna pop those ults and squeeze out that damage. So yeah, like I said, you can take down the 2 shields, but you're like, I just don't have enough to take down that third shield. This is where this strategy is going to come into handy. Just a few more minutes. I'm not entirely sure what else I meant to say at this point. Just, you know, use whatever DPS you've got and keep going and carry on, as they say. First meteorite impact, things are starting to go. You could also just quickly use those ultimates because you're going to be picking things up anyway. But after this meteorite impact comes down, what we're going to do is start picking up everyone off the field. Just make sure you don't pick everyone off, otherwise you will end the fight. And you're going to place down your Unkillable tank. Now what happens is they are going to take the damage, and actually you could have done it like before that meteorite impact actually came up, so you could do it like 140. That would be absolutely fine. But the boss does his big yeet, and then what we're going to do is start putting our heroes down again, so that we can get just that little bit more from the last 45 seconds, and that can be honestly enough for getting you the next chest. So yeah, it's a really nice little strategy to help you just get an extra like 30-40 seconds of damage, which really can be the difference between chests effectively. So anyway, that is basically the principles. Ult as quickly as you can with everything else. Squeeze in all the damage. And woohoo! So yeah, that is the Unkillable strat to help you sneak through a little bit extra damage and hopefully help you with progression. Now, one little alternative that you can do is, if you don't have Volker at A1 yet, is you can make use of invisible heroes to, when the boss does their like single target damage or their targeted damage. This is heroes like Hatzit, Alora, or even the new Epic Pierce Lord that we got recently, Eliza. Basically what will happen is if you need that like a little bit extra time, those invisible heroes don't actually get targeted, and that can help you survive a bit longer on the field. But you could also pick up your heroes a little bit earlier. There's kind of a different options to like play around with. You're gonna have to work out what's best for you, but hopefully that will help you just sort of sneak through damage, help you progress. And yeah, by the time you are moving on to Nightmare 4, which I'm going to do a separate video about, we are going to talk about more team specifics as well as hero builds, as that's when it really gets important, because through progression you're just going to have to use whatever gear you have lying around that is the best on your account. Anyway, I do hope that helps. Do let me know in the comments below how you're getting on with your progression, if you have any tips or tricks for helping move up through. One final thing I will say, when you are progressing through the different guild bosses, what I recommend you do is make sure you hit top chest before you move on to the next level. So for example, hit top chest on easy, move on to normal, hit top chest on normal, then move on to hard. Sometimes you might need to double hit, but if you can, I would recommend always getting 2 chests rather than 1 chest. That is just a personal thing. The rewards just might not be as good, but they're a little bit better. And so yeah, anyway, that is going to wrap things up. Thank you so much for watching. A huge thank you to my members. Again, this was taken from my behind the scenes live stream, so big shout out to all of them. I will see you guys in the next video. So until then, take care and bye for now.